There are chapters in 10th canto Bhagavatam, three chapters. Same Prabhupada has very nicely given us the summary of them in the Krishna book. It is going to give us a complete picture of what happened. This chapter 82 is titled Lord Krishna and Balaram meets the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Once upon a time, while Lord Krishna and Balaram were living peacefully in the great city of Dwaraka, there was a full solar eclipse, Suryagrahana, such as takes place at the end of every kalpa or day of Brahma. At the end of every kalpa, the sun is covered by a great cloud, and incessant rain covers the lower planetary systems up to Svarga. By astronomical calculation, people were informed about this great eclipse prior to its taking place, and therefore everyone, both men and women, decided to assemble at the holy place in Kurukshetra, also known as Samanta Panchaka. So what is Samanta Panchaka? Prabhupada explains. The Samanta Panchaka pilgrimage site is celebrated by any, although Lord Parashurama is fully powerful and unlimited in order to exhibit ideal character Panchaka to atone for his so-called sinful killing. Parashurama dug 5 lakes in Kurukshetra. This is Panchaka. By his example, Lord Parashurama established the killing art sometimes necessary is not good. Lord Parashurama considered himself culpable for the sinful killing of the Kshatriyas. Therefore, how much more culpable are we for such abominable, unsanctioned acts? Thus, from time immemorial, the killing of living entities is prohibited all over the world. Now, taking advantage of the occasion of the solar eclipse, all important persons from all parts of the Bharatavarsha visited the holy place of pilgrimage. Some of the important personalities are mentioned as follows. Among the elder persons were Akrura, Vasudeva, Ugrasena, and among the younger generation were Gada, Pradyumna, Samba, and many other members of the Yadu dynasty, who had come there with a view to atone for sinful activities accrued in the course of discharging their respective duties. Because almost the Yadu dynasty, along with Shuchandra, Sukha, Sarana, remained in Dwaraka to protect the city. All the members of the Yadu dynasty were naturally very beautiful. Yet on this occasion, when they appeared duly decorated with golden necklaces and flower garlands, dressed in valuable clothing, and properly armed with their respective weapons, their natural beauty and personalities were 100 times enhanced. The members of the Yadu dynasty came to Kurukshetra in their gorgeously decorated chariots, which resembled the airplanes of the demigods, and which were pulled by the big horses that moved like the waves of the ocean. Some Yadus rode on sturdy, stalwart elephants that moved like the clouds in the sky. Their wives were carried on beautiful palanquins by beautiful men whose features resembled those of the Vidyadharas. The entire assembly looked as beautiful as an assembly of the demigods of heaven. So beautiful, beautifully decorated. All of them are moving from Dwaraka to Kurukshetra. After arriving in Kurukshetra, the members of the Yadu dynasty took their baths ceremoniously, with self-control as enjoined in the Shastras, and they observed fasting for the whole period of the eclipse in order to nullify the reactions of their sinful activities. Which the Shastras enjoin. When you come to pilgrimage place, you have to do many things. You have to do fasting, you have to do shaving, you have to do bathing, a lot of after priests are supposed to do. You are only feasting from yesterday. Since it is a Vedic custom to give in charity as much as possible during the hours of the eclipse, the members of the Yadu dynasty distributed many hundreds of cows in charity to the Brahmanas. All these cows were fully decorated with nice dress and ornaments. The special feature of these cows was that they had golden angle bells and flower garlands on their necks. After the eclipse, all the members of the Yadu dynasty again took their baths in the lakes created by Lord Parashurama. Then they sumptuously fed the Brahmanas with first-class cooked food. all prepared in butter. Very nice. According to Vedic system, there are two classes of food. One is called raw food or kacha food, and the other is called cooked food or pakka food. I am adding these words. This is very common in Vrindavan. Raw food does not indicate raw vegetables and raw grains, but food boiled in water, rice, dal, chapati, sabji. Whereas cooked food is made of ghee, fully deep fried in ghee. Chapatis, dal, rice and ordinary vegetables are called raw foods, as the fruits and salads. But puris, kachoris, samosas, sweet balls, ice creams. What else? Golgappas. Gulab jamuns. And so on are called cooked foods. All the Brahmanas invited on the occasion with the members of the Hindu dynasty were fed sumptuously with cooked food. Thank you to Anupama Prabhu, you are sumptuously feeding us. The ceremonial functions performed by the members of the dynasty externally resembled the ritualistic ceremonies performed by the karmis. When a karmi performs some ritualistic ceremony, his ambition is sense gratification. Good position, good wife, good house, good children, or good wealth. But the ambition of the members of the Hindu dynasty was different. Their ambition was to offer Krishna perpetual devotion with faith. Very important point. When devotees do devotion, it is not with any material motives. Anya vilashita shunyam. It is for further enhancing deepening their devotion and faith towards Lord Krishna. That is the point. All the members of the Hindu dynasty were great devotees. As such, after many births of accumulated pious activities, they were given the chance to associate with Lord Krishna. In going to take their baths in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, in observing the regulative principles in the solar eclipse, or in feeding the Brahmanas, in all their activities, they simply thought of devotion to Krishna. This is a Vedic culture. Everything connected to Krishna. Charity in connection with Krishna. Bathing also not for purifying, but main the background consciousness is I have to offer this as service to Krishna. That's the point. Yat karoshi yadashnash yuhoshi dadasiya. Yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushya madarpanam. The ideal worshipable Lord was Krishna and no one else. After the Brahmanas are fed, it is a custom for the host with their permission to accept prasadam. Thus, with the permission of the Brahmanas, all the members of the Hindu dynasty took lunch. Then they selected resting places underneath big shady trees. And when they had taken sufficient rest, they prepared to receive visitors, among whom were relatives and friends, as well as many subordinate kings and rulers. There were rulers of Matsya province, Kushinara province, Koshara province, Vidarbha province, Kuru province, Srinjaya province, Kamboja province, Kekia province, Madras province, Kunti province, Anarta province, Kerala province, and many other countries and provinces. Some of the rulers belonged to opposing parties and some were friends. But above all, the visitors from Vrindavan were most prominent. So whole Bharatavarsha means whole world, everybody has come. And this is before Kurukshetra war. Okay. The most prominent were Vrindavan devotees, Vrindavan residents. The residents of Vrindavan Dham. The residents of Vrindavan, headed by Nanda Maharaj, had been living in great anxiety because of separation from Krishna Balaram. Krishna left Vrindavan when he got invitation from Kamsa. Akrura came to take him. Then just for 3 days he would come later. But he never returned. It's more than 100 years now. Krishna has gone to Dwaraka. His son, grandson, everybody. Taking advantage of the solar eclipse, they all came to soul, Krishna and Balaram. So Vrindavanvasis have come and got the message that Krishna has come to Kurukshetra. The inhabitants of Vrindavan were well-wishers and intimate friends of the Hindu dynasty. This meeting of the two parties, after long separation, was a very touching incident. All the Yadus and the residents of Vrindavan felt such great pleasure in meeting and talking together. It was a scene. Meeting after long separation, they were all jubilant. Their hearts throbbed, and their faces appeared like freshly bloomed lotus flowers. Drops of tears fell from their eyes. The hair on their bodies stood on end, and because of their extreme ecstasy, there were temporarily speechless. In other words, they dove into the ocean of happiness. While the men were meeting in that way, the women also met one another in the same manner. They embraced one another in great friendship. Seeing one another in their arms, the saffron and kumkum spread on their breasts were exchanged from one person to another, and they all felt heavenly ecstasy. Due to such heart-to-heart embracing, torrents of tears glided down their cheeks. The juniors were offering obeisances to the elders, and the elders were offering their blessings to the juniors. Thus, they welcomed one another quickly. All their talk was only of Krishna. All the neighbors and relatives were connected with Lord Krishna's pastimes in this world. And as such, Krishna was the center of all their activities. Whatever activities they performed, social, political, religious, or conventional, were transcendental. The real rests of all renunciation. As stated in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional service rendered to Krishna automatically produces perfect knowledge and renunciation. Nobody knows this verse? Devotional service automatically produces perfect knowledge and renunciation. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Janeti Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Ahitukam. So Vasudeva Bhakti will generate Jnana and Vairagya. The family members of Yadu dynasty and the cowherds of Vrindavan had their minds fixed on Krishna. See how everything is activity. That's the main thing we have to see. Descriptions. How Yadu dynasty, the whole life and soul was Krishna. Vrindavan Vasis, the whole life and soul was Krishna. In one side, Yadu family members of Yadu dynasty and the cowherds of Vrindavan had their minds fixed on Krishna. That is a symptom of perfect knowledge. And because their minds are always engaged in Krishna, they are automatically freed from all material activities. This stage of life is called Yukta Vairagya, as enunciated by Srila Rupa Goswami. Knowledge and renunciation, therefore, do not mean dry speculation and renunciation of activities. Rather, one must start speaking and acting only in relationship with Krishna. This is what Prabhupada has taught us. Now, very interesting. In this meeting at Kurukshetra, Kunti Devi and Vasudeva, who were sister and brother, met after a long separation, along with their respective sons and daughters-in-law, children and other family members. By talking among themselves, they soon forgot all their past miseries. Kunti Devi especially addressed brother Vasudeva as follows: My dear brother, I am very unfortunate because not one of my desires have ever been fulfilled. Otherwise, how could it happen that although I have such a nice saintly brother as you, perfect in all respects, you did not inquire from me as to how I was passing my days in a distressed condition of life? Kunti Devi is complaining. He's a nice brother I had, but you didn't even ask me one day also how I was. It appears that Kunti Devi was remembering the miserable days when she had been banished with her sons to the mischievous plans of Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. She continued, My dear brother, I can understand that when providence goes against someone, even one's nearest relatives forget him. In such a condition, even one's father, one's mother, or one's own children will forget him. Therefore, my dear brother, I do not accuse you. She's saying it's all will of providence. Whatever happens, Krishna's will. Let us take it that way. We know this is how the world is. So Vasudeva replied to his sister, My dear sister, do not be sorry. Do not blame me in that way. We should always remember that we are all only toys in the hands of Providence. Everyone is under the control of Supreme Personality of God. It is under His control only that all kinds of fruitive actions and the reactions take place. My dear sister, you know that we were very much harassed by King Kamsa, and by his persecutions we were scattered here and there. We were always full of anxieties. Only the last few days we returned to our own places, by the place of God. After the conversation, Vasudeva and Ugrasena received the kings who came to see them, and they warmly welcomed them. Seeing Lord Krishna present on the spot, all the visitors felt transcendental pleasure and became very peaceful. Some of the prominent visitors were as follows: Bhishmadeva, Dronacharya, Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, Gandhari, along with their sons. So everybody is there. King Yudhishthira, along with his wife, and the Pandavas, along with Kunti, as well as Sanjaya, Purujit, Shalketu, the king of Kashi, Damodosha, Vishalaksha, the king of Mithila, the king of Madras, formerly known as Madra, the king of Kekeya, Yudhamanyu, Susharma, Bahalika, along with his sons and many other rulers subordinate to King Yudhishthira, were also present. When the visitors saw Lord Krishna with his thousands of beings, they were fully satisfied at the sight of such beauty. And important people from around the world. Okay. Then, all who were there personally, everybody visited Lord Balaram and Krishna. He was considered a Christian. Your Majesty, Ugrasena, King of the Bhojas, factually, the Yadus are the only persons in this world who are perfect in all respects. All glories unto you, all glories unto you. The specific condition of your perfection is that you always see Lord Krishna, who is sought by many mystic yogis, undergoing severe austerities and penances for a great number of years. They are appreciating the fortune of Yadus. Always they are seeing Krishna. All of you are in direct touch with Lord Krishna at every moment. You see, is glorifying about fortunate situation of the Yadus. All the Vedic hymns glorify the Supreme Personality of God, Krishna. The Ganges water is considered sanctified because of its being the water used to wash the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. The Vedic scriptures are nothing but the injunctions of Lord Krishna. The purpose of the study of all Vedas is to know Krishna. Which verse in Bhagavat Gita? Purpose of all Vedas? Vedesha Sarvai Aveva Vedya. Therefore, the words of Krishna and the message of his pastimes are always purifying. With the influence of time and circumstances, all the opulences of this world were all completely out. All our ambitions and desires are gradually being fulfilled. Your Majesty, King of the Bhojas, you are related with the Yadu dynasty by matrimonial relationship and by blood relationship also. As a result, you are constantly associating with Lord Krishna, talks with you, sits with you, rests with you, dines with you. The Yadus appear to be always engaged in worldly affairs, which are considered to be the royal road to hell. But due to the presence of Lord Krishna, the original personality of Godhead in the Vishnu category, who is omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent, all of you are factually relieved from all material contamination and are situated in a transcendent position of liberation and Brahman existence. Slowly, you come to the climax. When Nanda Maharaj and other residents of Vrindavan had heard that Krishna would be present at Kurukshetra, because of the solar eclipse, that all members of the Yadu dynasty would also be there, they had immediately prepared to go there. King Nanda, accompanied by his cowherd men, had loaded all their necessary paraphernalia and bullock carts, and all of the Vrindavan residents had come to Kurukshetra to see their beloved sons, Lord Krishna Ram. Krishna Ram ki Jai. When the cowherd men of Vrindavan arrived in Kurukshetra, all the members of the Yadu dynasty were most pleased. As soon as they saw the residents of Vrindavan, they stood up to welcome them and appeared to have their life. All the Vrindavan residents had been very eager to meet, and when they actually came forward, they met, they embraced to their hearts' satisfaction and remained in embrace for a considerable time. They embraced and stayed there. As soon as Vasudeva jumped up and ran over to him and embraced him very affectionately. Vasudeva began to narrate his own past history, how he had been imprisoned by King Kamsa, how his babies had been killed, how in place of Nanda Maharaj, Krishna and Balaram had been raised by Nanda Maharaj and his queen Yashoda as their own children. Similarly, Lord Balaram also embraced and was Yashoda Mata. And then they offered the respect feet were bowing down. Because of their feeling affection for Nanda and Yashoda, Krishna and Ram became choked up. Gadgad ho gaya. And for a few seconds, they could not speak. The most fortunate king Nanda and Mother Yashoda placed their sons on their laps and began to embrace them to their full satisfaction. Because of separation from Krishna and Balaram, King Nanda and Yashoda had been merged in great distress for a very long time. Now, after meeting them and embracing them, all their sufferings were mitigated. After this, Krishna's mother Devaki and Balram's mother Rohini both embraced Yashoda. They said, "Dear Queen Yashoda Devi, you and Maharaj have been great friends, and when we remember you, we are immediately overwhelmed with the thought of your friendly activities. We are so indebted to you that even if we are to return your benediction by giving you the opulence of the King of Heaven, it would not be enough to repay you for your friendly behavior. We shall never forget your kindly behavior toward us. When Krishna and Balaram were born, before they saw their real father and mother, they were entrusted to your care, and you raised them as your own children, fostering them as friends, fostering them as birds take care of their offspring in the nest. You have nicely fed, nourished, and loved them, and they have performed many auspicious religious ceremonies for their benefit. Actually, they are not our sons. They belong to you, Nanda Maharaj, and you are the real father and mother of Krishna and Balaram. As long as they are under your care, they have not even a pinch of difficulty. Under your protection, they are completely out of the way of all kinds of fear. This most affectionate care which you have taken for them is completely befitting your elevated position. The most notable personalities do not discriminate between their own sons and the sons of others. And there cannot be any personalities more noble than Krishna. Krishna and Balaram were their life and soul. The gopis that they could not tolerate not seeing him even momentarily when the lights blinked and impeded their vision. They condemned Brahma, the creator of the body, because he foolishly made the eyes which blinked seeing Krishna. Because they had been separated from Krishna for so many years, the gopis, having come along with Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda, felt intense ecstasy upon seeing Krishna. No one can even imagine how eager the gopis were to see Krishna again. As soon as Krishna became visible to them, they took him inside their hearts through their eyes and embraced him to their full satisfaction. It's so nice. Krishna only mentally, even though they were embracing Krishna only mentally, they became so ecstatic and overwhelmed with joy that for the time they completely forgot. The ecstatic trance they achieved simply by mentally embracing Krishna is impossible to achieve even for great yogis, constantly engaged in meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna could understand that the gopis were wrapped in ecstasy by embracing him in their mind. And since he is present in everyone's heart, he reciprocated the embracing from within. Krishna was sitting with Mother Yashoda and his other mothers, Devaki and Rohini. But when the mothers engaged in talking, he took the opportunity and went to a secluded place to meet the gopis. As soon as they were the gopis, the Lord smiled, and after embracing them, "My dear friends, you know that Ram and I left Vrindavan just to please our relatives and family members. Thus, we were long engaged in fighting with our enemies, and we are obliged to forget you, who are so much attached to me in love and affection. I can understand that I have been ungrateful to you, but still I know that you are faithful to me. May I inquire if you have been thinking of us, although we had to leave you behind? My dear gopis, do you now dislike remembering me, considering me to have been ungrateful to you? Do you take my misbehavior with you very seriously? After all, you should know that it was not my intention to leave you. Our separation was ordained by Providence, who after is the supreme Lord, and thus as he desires. He causes the intermingling of different persons and again them as he desires. Sometimes we see that a strong wind will mingle together clouds, atomic particles of dust or broken pieces of cotton, And after the strong winds have subsides, all the clouds, particles of dust, and pieces of cotton are again separated, scattered in different places. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is the creator of everything. We see are different manifestations of His energy. By His supreme will, we are sometimes united and sometimes separated. Absolutely dependent on His will. Fortunately, you have developed loving affection for me, which is the only way to achieve the transcendental position of association with me. Any living entity who develops such unalloyed devotional affection for me certainly at the end goes back home, back to Godhead. In other words, unalloyed devotional service and affection for me are the cause of supreme liberation. My dear gopis, gopi friends, you may know from me that it is my energies only which are acting everywhere. Take for example, an earthen pot. It is nothing but a combination of earth, water, air, fire and sky. It is always of the same physical composition, whether in its beginning, during its existence or after its annihilation. So Krishna is explaining the wonderful philosophy, the fine philosophy of how the gopis' feeling of separation is as good as Krishna very close to them. Is giving the background. How the Panchabhuta, what is there, finally it's all manifestation of Krishna's energy. It is always of the same physical composition, whether in its beginning, during its existence, or after annihilation. When it is created, the earthen pot is made of earth, water, fire, air, and sky. When it remains, it is the same in composition. When it is broken and annihilated, it's different. When it's broken and annihilated, its different ingredients are conserved in different parts of the material energy, with the theory of conservation of energy. Similarly, at the creation of this cosmic manifestation, during its maintenance and after its dissolution, everything is but a different manifestation of my energy. And because the energy is not separate from me, it is to be concluded that I am existing in everything. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagadavyakta murtina. I am present everywhere in my all-pervading features. In the same way, the body of a living being is nothing but a composition of 5 elements, and the living entity embodied in the material condition is also part and parcel of me. The living entity is imprisoned in the material condition of his false conception of himself as a supreme enjoyer. This false ego of the living entity is the cause of his imprisonment in material existence. As the supreme absolute truth, I am transcendental to the living entity, as well as to his material embodiment. The two energies, material and spiritual, both act under my supreme. Try to accept everything with a philosophical attitude. Very nice understanding Krishna is giving. Philosophical approach is what makes things, or otherwise it will be a material conception of life. Then you will understand that you are always with me and there is no cause of lamentation in our being separated from one another. Krishna stops speaking now. This important instruction by Lord Krishna to the gopis can be utilized by all devotees engaged in Krishna consciousness. The whole philosophy is considered on the basis of inconceivable simultaneous. In the Bhagavat Gita, Lord says that He is present everywhere. Everything is in Him, and still He is not only present everywhere. The cosmic manifestation is nothing but a display of Krishna's energy. And because the energy is not different from energetic, nothing is different from Krishna. This consciousness, absolute consciousness, Krishna consciousness is absent. We are separated from Krishna. But fortunately, if this consciousness is present, then we are not separated from Krishna. It's all a matter of consciousness. The process of devotional service is the revival of Krishna consciousness. And if the devotee is fortunate enough to understand that the material energy is not separate from him, Krishna, then he can utilize the material energy and its products in the service of the Lord. But in the absence of Krishna consciousness, the forgetful living entity, although part and parcel of Krishna, falsely puts himself in the position of enjoyer, being thus implicated in material and supreme enjoyer. Prakate kriyamanani gunai karmani sa ahankara vimudhatma kartahamiti mate. If a devotee knows perfectly that the Archa form of the Lord Krishna in the temple is exactly the same Satchidananda Vigraha as Krishna himself, then the service to the temple deity becomes direct service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, the temple itself, the temple paraphernalia, and the food offered to the deity are also not separate from Krishna. So this is the principle which Madhupadi produces for holy name. Holy name we utter is called Shaktya Vishnama, who is actually original the Nama, original spiritual Nama in spiritual word, Aprakata Nama. So one has to follow the rules and regulations prescribed by the Acharyas, and thus, under superior guidance, Krishna realization is fully possible even in this material existence. The gopis, instructed by Krishna in this philosophy of simultaneous oneness and difference, remained always in Krishna consciousness and thus became liberated from all material contamination. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends that we follow gopis because there is in this elevated consciousness. The consciousness of the living as the enjoyer of the material world is called Jiva Kosha, represented with a false ego. Not only the gopis, but anyone who follows these instructions of Krishna is immediately freed from the Jiva Kosha imprisonment. A person in full Krishna consciousness is always liberated from false egoism. He utilizes everything for Krishna's service and is not at any time separated from Krishna. The gopis therefore pray, dear Krishna, from your navel emanated the origin, which is the birth site of Brahma. No one can estimate your glories or your opulence, which therefore remain always a mystery to the highest thoughtful men, the masters of all yogic power. However, when all the dark of this material existence can very take shelter of your lotus feet. Thus, his deliverance is guaranteed. Krishna, we are always busy in our family affairs. We therefore request that you remain with us as the rising sun. That will be a great benediction. The gopis are always liberated souls because they are fully Krishna consciousness. They only pretended to be entangled in household affairs in Vrindavan. Because of their separation from Krishna, he might have asked them to return with him to his capital city, Dwarka. But the inhabitants of Vrindavan, the gopis, were not interested in the idea of going with Krishna to Dwarka. They wanted to remain busy in Vrindavan and thus feel the presence of Krishna in every step of their lives. They immediately invited Krishna to come back to Vrindavan. This transcendental emotional existence of the gopis is the basic principle of Lord Chaitanya's teachings. Feeling of separation. This is the main viraha. Vipralamba Seva it is called. The Rath Yatra festival observed by Lord Chaitanya is the emotional process of taking Krishna back to Vrindavan. Actually, it is, I have heard in some other, read somewhere, not in Prabhupada's teachings. When Krishna, Balaram and Subhadra saw gopis saw them. Krishna, Balaram, Subhadra transformed so much, their head, neck went inside, their bodies bulged, their hands, legs went inside. Jagannath form, Jagannath Baladev form. The most ecstatic, intense ecstasy. And so much ecstasy they were feeling, that is the form they were standing in front of gopis. That is the form which gopis wanted to place them in the chariot and pull them back to Vrindavan. That's why Rath Yatra, that is Rath Yatra. Such a elevated, transcendental understanding it is. People sometimes misunderstand what is Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, no hands, no legs properly. It's the most ecstatic feature, most highest intense emotional feeling which Krishna is feeling. The Rath Yatra festival observed by Lord Chaitanya is the emotional process of taking Krishna back to Vrindavan. Srimati Radharani refused to enjoy his company in the atmosphere of royal opulence, for she wanted to enjoy his company in the original Vrindavan atmosphere. Lord Krishna, being profoundly attached to the gopis, never goes away from Vrindavan, and the gopis and other residents of Vrindavan remain firmly satisfied in Krishna consciousness. So the pulling of Ratha, Yatra Jagannath Rath Yatra from Jagannath temple, which is considered to be Dwaraka, up to Gundicha. Gundicha is considered to be Vrindavan. So the gopis are pulling Jagannath Baldev Subhadra on a chariot, on different chariots, of course, from Dwarka to Vrindavan. That is the past life, that is the remembrance, commemorating this. So this happened in Kurukshetra, you see. Same. Very important place for us. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of 82nd chapter of Krishna, Lord Krishna Ram, with the inhabitants of Vrindavan. We have 2 more chapters. So be patiently hearing. Okay. I will. No. I will give summary in 2 minutes.
So what can we do?
2 minutes. If it is.
Continue. Actually, what we want to have the sun. It's raining so much. So wherever we go, we can sit because all difficult to do. They're all open. So can we come back and do that?
Sit here.
No, depends on the weather. I check the weather.
I think it will turn off.
Weather prognosis.
Just here 2 minutes. The flow will continue. So now after this, what happens? The queens of Dwaraka. So Draupadi is interacting with the queens. Basically, Draupadi meets the principal queens and asks them how you are so devoted to Krishna, how you are surrendered to Krishna. All of them have one common answer. Krishna is so attractive, Krishna is so wonderful. We all became his maidservant. I became her maidservant like this. Rukmini says how she was kidnapped and how finally, I became Krishna's maidservant. So the mood is how all of us became maidservants of Krishna. Prabhupada quotes this in many occasions. This is chapter 83. 84th chapter is actually Vasudeva performs sacrifices in Kurukshetra. Okay. So in this, basically Krishna gives very wonderful instructions. The famous verse, Yasyatma buddhi punapetri dhatuke swaditkalatra adishubhoma ijjadhi. Next line. Yat tirtha buddhi salilena karniche ganesha vignesh sa eva gokharaha. Cows and asses, Prabhupada repeats. People who are having bodily conception of life, no better than animals. This is a famous verse in that 84th chapter. So there, Krishna advises, rather gives instructions, and after that Vasudeva performs the sacrifices. And very beautifully, description is given, which we will see or read whenever we have time today. बोलो कुरुक्षेत्र धाम की जय, रथ यात्रा की जय, जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा मैया की जय, गोपीस की जय, जय गौर प्रेमानंद. So such important place is Kurukshetra for us.